I'll talk about one of the medicines that I work with in ceremony, and we touched on it before, Kambo, the traditional Amazonian frog medicine. This particular medicine is from the secretion of the Philomedusa bicolor frog. And this frog resides in the Amazon basin from Peru, Colombia, Ecuador, Brazil, and beyond. Traditionally, this medicine is used for a variety of reasons. One of the reasons is it's used before hunting. It's called hunting magic. They use it, our Indigenous brothers and sisters, they use it before going out on hunts because they say it enhances their visual acuity, their auditory senses. They say it gives them the cloak of invisibility because in high enough doses it can eliminate human scent for some time, and they can run through the jungle tracking their animals, doing whatever they need to do for a lot longer, so a lot more stamina without needing to eat, sleep, drink as much. They also use it as their general jungle medicine. It's called Vacina da Floresta, so vaccine of the forest, snake bites, malaria, infections, parasites, pathogens, that sort of thing. And they also use it to clear out panema. And panema, loosely translated, means something to the effect of negative energy, dark energy. You feel like you've got a heavy cloud hanging over you. And that could be interpreted in many different ways. So I touched on it before, these different levels of being, the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. So Kambo can help release energies when it comes to physical illnesses or disease, emotional blockages and challenges, the mental patterns and programs, the unconscious beliefs, dysfunctional beliefs, thought processes, and that spiritual disconnection, that nature disconnection. It's also used to, in a traditional context, to receive energy. And this kind of veers off a little bit, but we're talking about receiving it from a person who is not lazy. It's very, very important for the Indigenous to receive it from a person who isn't lazy, because if they're receiving it from someone with that energy, they will think that you are going to undertake the energy from that person. So this speaks to the importance of doing your research when you are choosing who to go and receive your medicine from, or to go and sit in sacred ceremony from, because there are a lot of practitioners, there are a lot of people serving medicine, and perhaps there are some people that shouldn't be serving medicine, but as I generally say, there seems to be someone for everyone. But yeah, a lot of people are coming to Kambo to help release what isn't serving them, to create space, to be able to call in, to bring in the new, to walk a new vision, to walk in their truth to a higher degree, to be able to express themselves more with more clarity, more direction, more meaning, more purpose. So there are many different ways of working with this medicine. In a traditional context, Kambo it's not worked with in a ceremonial context, because it's kind of just their general jungle medicine. So if someone's sick in the tribe, or if they're going out before a hunt, they don't hold a ceremony like we might hold over here in the West. And we can speak to the importance of ceremony in a moment. But it's just kind of like, okay, well, you need some Kambo, okay, you go to the village elder or the shaman, or if you are skilled or proficient in administering to yourself, they'll do that. And they'll just go through the process. But over here, I feel like there's an importance to incorporate elements of ceremony, ritual, and rite of passage because of all this stuff that we were talking about, because of our severe disconnection to the natural world. So it's nice to have a container to help people enter into those streams of consciousness where we can go, okay, I remember the importance of, say, sitting inside a teepee or sitting around a sacred fire where the elders and all our ancestors used to gather for thousands of years to engage in healing work or tell stories of myth and legend and weave new narratives through the tapestry of existence and through reconnecting to nature. So the way that Kambo is administered is through the lymphatic system. We do this by making small little burn marks in the top layer of skin. The secretion is dried on these sticks. It's reconstituted with water. The small amount of medicine gets placed on these, it's like we're burning like the superficial layer of skin, very akin to a mild blister. The medicine goes in, sucked into the lymphatic system. The effects are felt within, depending on body placement and someone's ability to circulate quickly or slowly, anywhere between, say, 30 seconds to a minute
30 seconds to a minute, it's
it comes on very, very, very quickly.
Okay.
And it's often referred to as ordeal medicine because it can be quite an ordeal to go through. And I think that's an important point to make as well when we're talking about plant medicines, sacred medicines, Kambo, ayahuasca, whatever it is. intention is uber important, because generally your intention coming into these things is not for recreational purposes. And, you know, while there are some psychedelic substances which can lend themselves to recreational purposes, perhaps one of the more common ones is cannabis, psilocybin mushrooms. A lot of these other traditional medicines are very, very uncomfortable to go through. And there are reasons why we go through them, even though they're so uncomfortable, because we know that going down the path of adversity leads to growth, yeah? Because we have to be able to step outside of our comfort zone to be able to grow as a person, to evolve spiritually, to gain new perspectives, to leave old ones behind. So one of the main mechanisms of Kambo is to help people purge. So people go through a very intense process, all kind of physiological processes are happening. It tends to be a very physical experience. And it generally, not always, but generally results in the purging. And the purging can be of physical toxins as the medicine kind of navigates its way around the body, cleaning up debris, toxins that we don't want inside the body. It could be the emotional blockages and challenges that are stored on a physical level. And you know, that's another conversation there, looking at how trauma manifests on a mental or an emotional level, and how that stores in the physical system. But it can help clear out that. It can help uproot a lot of these unconscious patterns and programs from the mind, so they can bubble up to the surface, so that we can go, okay, yeah, I'm carrying these patterns and programs from childhood. This is why I'm feeling insecure about myself. This is why I'm angry all the time. Yeah, so it can illuminate these, bring deeper states of self-awareness to a lot of our thoughts, mental patterns. And as I mentioned, it helps people connect back to nature as well. So the way that I facilitate these is in a ceremonial context, with, you know, whether it's a one-on-one or a small group of people, and we go through the process with the medicine. It's generally a several-hour kind of process, allowing people to go through their experience and rest afterwards, come back to baseline. But that's a very general, brief introduction into this one particular medicine, Kambo.
For sure. So you obviously so Kambo, it's a type of frog excretion.
Yeah,
so it's a type
frog
of
secretion. Yeah,
frog
that's
secretion.
right. Yeah, and it's full of peptides. Yeah, so sorry to interrupt you there.
No, go for it.
Yeah. So I guess if we're looking at things from a more scientific perspective, we know a little bit about the secretion. In 1986, an Italian, I think it was a pharmacologist, Vittorio Erspamer, I believe his name was. He's actually the guy who discovered the neurotransmitter serotonin, and for some of his work, I can't remember what it was, but he was nominated twice for the Nobel Prize. And he concluded that this Amazonian frog contained I think he said something like a fantastic chemical cocktail of all of these peptides. And for the past 3 decades, pharmaceutical companies, science in general, the world of medicine has been trying to isolate these various peptides for specific medical reasons. Well, I suppose that's what medicine does, yeah? It finds these kind of natural compounds and tries to reduce them to one single peptide and go, this particular peptide or this particular chemical component is going to reduce blood pressure. Yeah, so they've been trying to do this for 30 years. However, I think that, and this goes for a lot of the natural medicines, that the whole is much greater than the part. And that's not always the case, but I think for most of the time it is. It's important to come to these traditional medicines as a whole and not just like pick little bits and pieces out, because they've been time tested for thousands of years. This is the way they've done it. It's worked this way for thousands of years, and it's worked for a reason. And they keep doing it the same way for a reason, because it works.
Yeah. So frog poison, you burn, a small mark on the skin.
And important to make a distinction, because a lot of people think it's a poison, but it's not classified as a poison. At least I do not classify it as a poison. When we're talking about a poison, the body doesn't recognize it as being a poison, and people go through intense processes where their heart speeds up, they start sweating, they go through cathartic processes, they start shaking, they're purging, maybe they've got diarrhea, sometimes all at the same time. But it may look like the body has become poisoned, and a lot of people see that and go, oh, well, that's clearly the sign of being poisoned. But the peptides in the frog are considered bioactive, which essentially just means that they induce specific biological functions in the body. So this particular peptide will induce a long-lasting reduction in blood pressure. This other one, we know that it induces smooth muscle contraction. This other one induces enhanced bile production. So these peptides are all coming together and they're inducing these physical processes on the body. And the body sees the peptides as if the body had made them itself. It's like, oh yeah, I know what that peptide is. I'll just slot that into place here and I'll slot that one into place here. And off we go. We do our physical thing, and this starts to get into the colorful kind of spiritual language. But the medicine is so intuitive and has its own wisdom to it that it knows how to navigate each individual system and what needs to be addressed first and foremost. So the body doesn't see it as a poison. The body sees it as, well, something that it has produced itself. But in saying that, yeah, the dose makes the poison with everything.
Of course.
Water can be poisoned if we're drinking 6 gallons just straight off.
Mm-hmm. So you've talked about when you have this, when you have Kambo, like, so obviously some of the physical, I guess, some of the physical reactions are that obviously it creates that purging feeling, which is obviously a result of the peptides, but obviously more of a spiritual purging as well. So from your experience, what has been the experience of people that you have dealt with? What are some of the things that you've seen from some of the clients and the people that you've worked with?
Yeah, in a lot of, I guess, in our Western culture, I suppose, from the Western viewpoint, whenever we are vomiting, it's seen as being unwell. However, in many plant-based cultures, traditional or indigenous cultures with a connection to some of these medicines, they use purgatives quite regularly. And when they're going through these purging processes, they don't see it as being sick, they see it as getting well. And we're certainly not the only animals to ingest certain things to help us purge and to help us cleanse the system. Prime example, dogs. Dogs or cats going outside and eating grass, all kinds of animals ingesting certain things to help them eliminate, I guess, toxins, pathogens out of the system. So as I mentioned before, there's a wide range of why people come into ceremony, whether it's the physical, the mental, or the emotional, the spiritual disconnection. So what I generally see, for the most part, and this is a generalization, is a lot of people going through a very physical kind of process. And people come out of the experience a little bit, well, a lot of the time, a little bit dazed, kind of like, well, what happened? How long did pass just then? It's been 5 hours since the beginning of ceremony until the end of ceremony. Where did all that time kind of go? And people who have worked with Kambo before might be thinking, oh, 5 hours, geez, that's a long time, because typically the experience only lasts from 20 to 40, sometimes 60 minutes tops. However, the way that I work with this medicine, there's typically other energetic work that happens as well. And I incorporate a few other things to help open up people's systems so they can become more sensitive and receptive to the medicine so that it can come in and work on a much deeper level. But what I see is typically people releasing, exactly what I talked about, releasing emotional afflictions that have been hindering them for years, maybe decades, through, whether that's through cathartic processes of releasing into the body or Kambo releasing, kind of uprooting things, as I mentioned, and allowing those things to bubble up in the days to come so the body can release them. Or it might be a deeper connection to the nature by sitting around the fire and recognizing that they are communing with a sentience and intelligence other than themselves. When we ingest these plant or animal compounds, components, the way that I see it is a weaving of our human consciousness with plant consciousness or with animal consciousness. And that's a whole other conversation about consciousness and perhaps animism and panpsychism, which we could touch on and go down later. But yeah, a lot of the times I see people who are coming into ceremony and stepping deeper into their truth and feeling more aligned to their heart because they have the opportunity to release the things that are holding them back from stepping into that. All the conditioning that's been pulled on from society, culture, family, friends, ever since we were birthed. From our mother's womb, from the sacred fluids into this physical realm.
Yeah. And are there any sort of elements or themes that you see more and more of sort of through your clients that you work with? Like, is it more sort of childhood trauma, or is it more things to do with addiction? Is it stuff to do with relationships? Like, is there a common theme that you see?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, one of the common themes that I see is through a lot of daily stress, just the typical stress, which leads to a lot of anxiety and depression. Very, very common. And we see that they are prevalent afflictions throughout the entirety of the Western world. And if we were to ask why, then again, we go down the similar trail. And it's like when we're addressing these things, we don't want to just address the surface level symptoms. We want to try and get to the root cause, which is a lot of these traumas that people are carrying. And it's a lot of the disconnection, the disconnection to the heart, or the disconnection from the heart, and the disconnection from nature. So a lot of times people are feeling this anxiety and depression because there's a disconnection, because they're holding these self-limiting beliefs like, I'm not good enough, I can't do that, I'm unworthy, I'm unloved. So it facilitates that reconnection back to the heart.
Yeah.
And of course, when we're reconnecting back to ourselves, we feel like we can connect with others on a deeper level. We connect with tribe, and then of course that expands out. We connect back to the natural world, or at least we have the opportunity to start seeing things from a different perspective because we've done so much inner work, and that positive feedback loop kind of keeps going.